Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining in. I'm sure you could be doing 1,000 things this Sunday afternoon, but you are here with us on KUAW Radio. So we thank you and appreciate you for that. We are all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not, from politics to music to entertainment, especially our local government. It's a major part of our lives. And we talk about it right here every first and third Sundays of the month. And we talk about it here on Up Close and Cultural with Dr. Kara Say, here on KUAW Radio. That's Kansas City's own culture, knowledge, understanding, and wisdom radio. You can catch us on KUAW.org as well as on all social media platforms on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, TuneIn app, Periscope, and Twitch. So again, thank you for joining us today. This afternoon, I have a special guest with us. I have the Honorable Tony Martinez, the Honorable Judge Tony Martinez, Wyandotte County District Court Judge. And today we will be talking about the upcoming election that is very close to us on August the 2nd, which is approximately a couple of weeks away. And that is the formal election. You can vote early as well as request your mail-in ballots, which we are encouraging everyone to exercise your right to vote through either one of those platforms. There are several elections going on throughout the counties on both sides of the river, Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri. And I just want to take a moment and advise you all to get to know all of the candidates that are running for the specific offices, as well as to educate yourselves on the various laws that are passing or trying to pass. And as we go forward, we will be trying to put out as much information as we can about those. You know, we have been talking about these legislations that has passed recently regarding education and a variety of things that have passed through the legislature in Topeka. But today we are going to talk about what is going on locally. Because as you all are aware, or for those of you who aren't aware, what happens locally affects what happens to us nationally and of course globally. And we hear a lot of the rhetoric of how somehow our vote does not matter, and that is the furthest from the truth. And if we do not, well, let me back up. The people who are elected on a national and a global scale, they come from somewhere. They don't just pop out of the sky. They get their experience and their start from our local level. And so it's in these elections that we get to know the candidates, that we meet the candidates, and where these things start. And so it is imperative that I impress upon you guys that show up to the polls on August the 2nd and vote for the things that are happening to you in your local government so that you can be aware and have put yourself into the game. Because if you do not exercise your right to vote, then you are already doing yourself a disservice, and then you have no voice in anything because you're taking yourself not only out of the game, but out of the arena as a whole. But again, today we are going to focus on what's happening to us locally on the Kansas side of the river. Again, we have the Honorable Judge Tony Martinez here, who is running up for re-election for District Court Judge. And I want to take a moment and first say thank you for joining us, Judge Martinez. And I just want to take a moment before we actually get into your platform, but to give you a chance to just introduce yourself to our audience and to the community for those who do not know you, and just give a little bit of your background before we actually get into who you are and what you have already brought to the Kansas City, Kansas, and Wyandotte County community.
I'm Judge Tony Martinez. This is my reelection year. I have spent 4 years on the bench. I was elected in 2018 by the great community of Wyandotte County. I'm up for reelection this year. I'm in my election division will be Division 4. So if you get that ballot, look on Division 4. I'm sorry, apologize. Division 5. Division 5. Division 5 is where my name will be, and I'm hoping that I get enough of those check marks so that I will stay on the bench. I think it's very important. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you started well, you were elected to Division 5 in 2018.
Yes, ma'am.
Prior to that, you were serving in the Wyandotte County community already in what capacity?
Well, I was a community attorney, and when I say that, it means that I'm kind of a unique judge, I think, because I served only the people, only the folks in the community, not just Wyandotte County, but in the whole Kansas City area. Um, my wife and I, when we figured out we were going to have to run again, we figured out that between the state of Kansas and Missouri, I've been in over 34 different counties. So I practice law in all those counties. What makes me unique is that all I've ever done is represented folks in the community who needed my help with their legal matters, whether it was domestic or criminal or probate or civil or contract or juvenile traffic also. That's what I did. It gives me a different perspective because I come from the community. I'm what you call a blue collar general practitioner. So I practiced many different laws in many different counties throughout these two states, Missouri and Kansas, and actually 10 total states. We figured that out too. I traveled quite a bit when I practiced law. I've been as far west as California, as far east as Illinois. I think I went to Tennessee for something, Texas. You go north, Nebraska, Iowa. So I've been around for quite a while. It's been 27 years before I was elected in 2018. So I'm a community attorney in that regard. And to further explain it, there's other people that are running in other divisions, not in my division, but in other divisions that have only worked for the prosecutor or for the government. This 2018 election was the first time somebody besides community members paid me. So I think it puts me in a unique perspective because I bring that community perspective to the bench. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that is very important and unique because it's definitely important that you serve the Wyandotte County community, but being on the bench, you bring that perspective of the entire state of Kansas because Wyandotte County is a very diverse community. It is one of the counties in Kansas that is the most diverse. So yeah, I think it's safe to say from what you just said that you bring experience from a lot of different communities and you bring a perspective from a lot of different backgrounds to the bench to be able to assist all of the different communities that will be present before you. So with that being said, your wife, Ms. Angela Martinez, she also, I'm sorry, go ahead.
There she is.
Okay, she also is active. Hi. She also, there was a little delay. She is also active in the community with you as well. Can you touch on that as well? Because I think it's important um, to, um, it's important to the community that your presence be known outside of the bench, because if you are going to be an officer or an advocate of the people, you have to know the people. And the only way to do that is through engagement and active engagement. So I will let well, one or the both of you speak on that.
I can let my wife talk a little bit. I do want to point out that her and I built our whole business around the community. I was an attorney, and she was my legal secretary for how many years, dear?
Well, we've been together 25.
25. So we've been together that long, and honestly, from day one when we met and we got together and decided we were going to be man and wife, she started working with me. So she's my prize, and she is my greatest weapon against anyone that comes against me, because she's so knowledgeable and she's so darn tough. I mean, this woman not only ran my business, she was also my accountant, my business manager, of course, my wife, the mother of my children, and I mean, my advisor. There wasn't anything she didn't do to keep the business running. And thank God she was there, or else I wouldn't have been able to survive. And she's also a great ambassador to the community. She was the first initial person you talk to before you talk to me, especially if I was busy. And luckily she had the gift of gab, so she was able to make people feel comfortable. And she still does that today in the community. Yes, ma'am. So I don't. She can answer anything. She can probably tell you all the groups that we're involved in. Honey, you want to tell them about some of the groups we're involved in?
We're involved in several organizations. He's on the board of the NAACP. We're involved in Armourdale Renewal Association, KUAW, Rotary. We just got invited to be KC United, both of us. The Jenga Club. We're involved in numerous organizations. Before he became a judge, he was an attorney for 27 years. And along with that, he also coached basketball and football. So we're very involved with the youth, and we have been from day one. And we've never not been an advocate for children. And we have several of our kids that we used to coach in basketball that still keep in touch with us today and call and say, Happy Mother's Day, Miss Angela. Happy Father's Day, Coach Tony. So there's a connection to the community from when they were children, and they are now having children of their own. And it's extremely important to us to keep that connection and to keep that love and support system, because it takes a village to raise a child. And that's where we support that.
Absolutely. Okay. So with that being said, and as far as community is concerned, what I touched on when we started the show was encouraging people to get out to vote, because to have a community and being in a community, we are governed by laws. And the laws that we have, they are voted on, and the laws, we have to abide by rules. And of course, the judges and the elected officials, they not only, I don't want to say come up with the rules, but they are a part of our governmental system, and the community plays a role in how these rules are carried out. So I would just like to hear your perspective and how you feel as far, or what you would like to say as far as the community coming out to exercise their right to vote and having a voice in what happens in their community and where they live.
Well, the vote is our power. The vote is our voice. And if we don't exercise our voice, then we really can't complain. We have to exercise our voice. The more people that vote, the louder we become. And that's how we change laws. That's how we enforce laws. That's how we make sure we get things done. We put the right people, or the people that we believe should be our leaders and lawmakers in positions to exercise the rights that we, the community, want them to exercise. So it's very important. It's the most important right. I would say it's the most important right you have, because the only way you can really have effective change for things that you want changed or that need to be changed is by exercising the right to vote. Absolutely. The legislatures is in the different states. Those are the elected officials who make the changes in the laws. And it's up to us to decide who we trust to put in the legislature. And I mean, if you don't vote, then you're not making a choice. Somebody else is making it for you. So it's real hard to complain or about anything if you're not exercising that right. Absolutely. It's the most important right I think you have. It is. And you know this, ma'am. People of color, especially in the African American community, died to get that right to vote. And no one should miss that fact because it's so important. The young that I see that don't want to exercise the right to vote, I try to point that out, whether they're white, black, or brown, or Asian. It's just so important. They have to understand the turmoil and the suffering that many minority people went through to make sure they got that right to vote. And it's not just based on racial lines. There's also economic lines. Certainly there was many economically deprived people that were not of color, white folks, that fought hard to make sure we had that right also. Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You made an excellent point. If we don't exercise that right to vote, then that is a major way of how we lose our voice. That was an excellent point. So you are not running unopposed in this election. So my question to you, which I know that many of our viewers want to know when they show up to the polls to make that decision as to whom they would like to cast their vote for, is what makes you stand out from your opponent? What distinguishes you or makes you different from the candidate that is running against you?
The most important, I have three strengths. There's three strengths in your vote for Tony Martinez. Three. The most important is my experience. I have 27 years as a community attorney. I have that experience representing all those diverse kinds of laws that I practiced before. And I also have the extra 4 years of experience sitting the bench as the judge. So 31 years of total experience I have, 31. That's just, that makes me supremely qualified. And I say that because it's just true, 31 years of experience and in the community doing things legal-minded for community members. Makes me unique, and it makes me supremely qualified. The second most important strength is my community engagement. I mean, I'm in the community. I explained that earlier. We're on executive boards on all those clubs, mostly youth-oriented, Thrive, Jegna Club, KC United, Rotary, Kiwanis West. We're also involved with the rebuilding of the Armadale area, Armadale Renewal Association. So we're extremely connected to the community. And again, I bring that perspective of what the community is doing, what the community looks like, how can I help, what are the inherent problems that I see among youth and adults. And I take that into consideration as much as I can, according to my rules. I have judicial ethics I have to follow. So those are the two big strengths that I have, the experience and the community involvement. And it's important to note that community involvement is not frowned upon in my rules as a judge. They're actually encouraged. As an elected official, I think the more I'm in the community, the more I build confidence in our judiciary, and I think that's very important. I hear that often. Well, I don't see any other judges. How come? Well, I don't know about the other judges. I only know about me and what I can do, and about my wife and what we can do. Now, the other thing that's as equally as important, and it depends on how you argue that, is the diversity I bring to the bench. Currently, we have 20 judges, state and city, sitting in Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. And of those judges, there are only 2 of color. You have a Mexican-American judge, Tony Martinez, that's me, and you have 1 African-American black judge, and that's Tim Dupree. Our bench, our judicial bench, should reflect our community. Our community is made up of 2/3 people of color, and we have a small percentage of an Asian population also. Yet we only have 2 judges out of 20 that are people of color. So that's not a proper reflection. I don't blame that on anybody. I know there's social and economic reasons for that. Certainly we have to overcome them, so there'll be more qualified applicants that are Hispanic or Mexican American or Black or African. I mean, we as peoples have to push our young to education. It's fine to have a trade. I understand that. I have family members who are hardworking blue collar people, but I say don't settle if you don't have to. Get your college education and go to professional school. We cannot sit at the table if we do not have qualified applicants. So very important. But I am qualified. I am a minority person who's extremely qualified, invested in the community, and the community's invested in me and my wife. And I am diverse. I bring that to the bench. No other candidate brings that. Other candidates bring experience, but not as much as me. The candidates bring community involvement, but not as much as me. And I bring the diversity. So all 3 of those are huge strengths that when you vote for Tony Martinez, you're voting for justice, honor, and strength. Yes, ma'am. You know, real quick, because I know you're probably going to have to go. My job is to dispense justice equally, regardless of race, color, creed, sexual orientation, or religious beliefs. And I do that. I've done my job through COVID and even through the recent computer breakdown that we had. I've done that, and I dare anybody to say I haven't. The other thing that's real important is people have to remember that I have to protect the integrity of the court, and I do that when I am sitting on the bench. I make sure people act honorably with a proper decorum, and hopefully they'll act accordingly so that we can get them out of the system as soon as possible. Finally, because you asked me about who I was running against, I have only served one master, and that is the law. I have worked as an attorney or as a judge. That is the only master, the law, that I have ever served. I have been in no other profession except the law. Thank you.
And the good Lord standing beside us.
And the good Lord stands beside us. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We stay positive no matter what.
Absolutely. Well, I think you said it all. They're very important points. I hear you're bringing strength to the bench, years of experience and community engagement. You have proven your ability as a judge by your experience on the bench by ruling through a national and global pandemic, as well as the recent crisis that the Wyandotte County experienced with the computer. I don't want to say era. What is it? What was it?
It was a breach.
It's a breach.
That's what it was. You successfully ruled through that. Is that over now? I know the community still has some concerns regarding that.
The court system is working diligently. My clerks, Marie, Lindsay, and Lacey, and my administrative assistant, Stephanie, we're working diligently to get back on track. In one particular area, the traffic docket is really shut down, but good news is I'm hearing we're going to be able to go forward next Friday, and after I think 8 or 9 weeks, we'll be ready. All the other parts of my docket, from the pleas and the preliminary hearings and the criminal diversion and municipal court appeals and the traffic trials, we're proceeding forward. But the traffic docket itself, we're going to keep our fingers crossed that everything works, and we'll be ready to go on Friday. So hopefully that'll work, so people can come in. We can take care of their tickets, and they can get their licenses back. Yes.
Okay, great. And I will point out that there were some delays and some postponements and some, I would say, some reschedules in the docket, and it was because of that breach with the system and not because of anything else. It was because of the system.
Yes, ma'am.
Specifically because of the computer breach, that there had to be some reschedules in the court docket.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to put that out there and to let the community know.
Yes, ma'am.
So with that being said, how can the community reach you and how can they donate to your campaign? And is there anything else that you want to say before we let you go? And also definitely, Miss Angela, if there's anything that you would like to say in final.
You want to go first?
No, you go ahead.
Well, certainly they can contact me at 913-488-5898. It is on my campaign handout. That is my number, 488-5898. I'm also in division downstairs in one of the divisions down there. And I won't confuse you because it's a different number than what I'm running as far as Division 5. But they can contact me by coming to the court. My courtroom is always open. Now, my actual office is not. It's locked because of safety reasons, and everyone should understand that. But the courtroom is always open. You don't have to just knock on the door. You can actually come in if you want. The other thing is, ma'am, I am out in the community quite a bit. Just about any event that's happening in the community, we're out in. It's important for us to be involved as much as we can because people need to be validated. And when judge shows up, they're happy about that. They feel important and they feel good. And I do that. No problem for the community. The last thing is, ma'am, we decided a long time ago, and this is just a moral decision we made. We don't take donations. This is something I choose to do. Now, if it was something that you asked me to do for you, then I'd probably ask for a donation if I wasn't a judge. But I don't take donations. We knew a long time ago we were going to have to run our own campaigns, and we don't take funding. What we ask for support is for people to get out there and vote. If you want a yard sign, if you want to come walk with us and knock on doors, that's fine too. But we don't take money, ma'am. I'm not going to take $25 or $50 from somebody that needs it more than I do. Not going to do that. I'm good.
All right. So do you have any upcoming events that you want to let the public know about, Ms. Angela? And also, how can they reach you if they have any other questions about the campaign?
Sure. We're both on Facebook, Tony Martinez, Angela Martinez. He has a re-elect Judge Tony Martinez page. We have a house party coming up on July 27th at 6:30. It's on the Facebook page. We also have a web page, reelectjudgemartinez.com. So those are all ways that you can reach Tony and I, and you can't miss us. We're out there all the time, almost every day. You can't not find us. But like I said, we're both on Facebook, and he's given his phone number, and there's multiple ways of contacting us. You can't not find us. We're very visible.
I just got news that there's a forum next week, actually, at, I think it's the First Baptist Church down on 5th Street, across from the federal courthouse. So that'll happen at 4 o'clock, from 4 to 7, I think. I don't know what time the judges will talk, but that will happen. I do weddings in the community quite often. Most people don't care who shows up as long as I'm there. So all you have to do is ask me, and probably can sit down and have a cup of coffee with me, something like that. I don't charge for weddings either. That's my way of giving back to the community. You have to feed Angela and I, though. You have to feed us. But yeah, I'm always out here. Call me if you want to know where I'm at. I'll talk to you. Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Judge and Ms. Angela. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, everyone, I encourage you to exercise your right to vote on August the 2nd, and I wish you well in your campaign, and I'm sure I will be seeing you very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay. Okay. Am I? Yeah, I will. Okay. And I can answer that when we get, we will. Mhm. Hello, and we are back with Up Close and Cultural with Dr. Karasay. And we are back with attorney, well, I should say, Assistant District Attorney Candace Alcaraz. She is also running for a district judge seat in Wyandotte County, Kansas. We just finished speaking with the Honorable Judge Tony Martinez and his wife, Ms. Angela Martinez. And right now, I want to give the floor to Candace Alcaraz, who is, again, she is already a assistant district attorney with Wyandotte County, and she is running for a seat in Wyandotte County, Kansas. And I believe that she is bringing a very unique and well-qualified perspective to the bench, but I will give Ms. Alcaraz a chance to give you a little bit of background about herself, and then we will talk about your campaign as well. And then I will pause for a second and say I did see the question that was on Facebook, and I will get to that in just a moment. I saw it later to the viewer who posted that, but I will answer that question in a moment. But Ms. Alcaraz, go ahead. Thank you for joining us, first of all. Thank you for being here on Up Close and Cultural with Dr. Karasay. But go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience.
Yes, indeed. My name is Candace Alcaraz, and I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois. I came to Kansas for law school. I went to Washburn and Topeka, and when it was over, I was looking for a job, and it came down to working at the public defender's office in Sedgwick County or working in the DA's office in Wyandotte County. And when I got my bar results, Wyandotte County was the only county that had an open position. And so that's what brought me here to KCK. From the very beginning of working here, I started in the juvenile offender unit, and I pretty much worked my way up to doing what I do now. I handle top level cases in my office, murders, sex cases, robberies. A couple of my cases I've seen in the news and on TV shows, so that's kind of weird for me, but I mean, I do important stuff now. I will say that my mom was a little heartbroken that I didn't come back home, but I told her I started my career here. I went to law school in Kansas, so I was not coming back home, and Wyandotte County really opened up its doors and embraced me. You guys have a certain way that you are with people who aren't from here, and so I had to earn my way in. And I feel like at this point people have been very welcoming to me. I don't have any family here, and when I first got here, I didn't have any friends here, so I kind of had to build up those relationships, but I've loved it here and enjoyed it here, so much so now that I have my home here in Turner. So I told my mom she can come and visit, but Wyandotte County is home now. And so through my experience in the DA's office, it's kind of what led me to go ahead and run for judge now during this campaign. And so I guess I can briefly go into that if you want me to, or is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
absolutely.
okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the very first day that I came to the DA's office, essentially what we do is like a 2-week training where you sit with other attorneys in the office and you kind of go through the practices of every day. So one of the main things that we do is a docket, and it's on Tuesday mornings. And so I was taken to docket on the 3rd floor of the courthouse. And on that floor, there are pictures aligning both walls of all the judges that we've had in this county. And so from the very first moment I got here, I looked up and I said, okay, this is nice, but I see that there's something that's missing. I don't see anybody like me. We've never had a Black female judge on the district court level here in Wyandotte County. So I kind of tucked that away in the back of my mind. And I said, there may be an opportunity in the future. We'll just see how things play out. And sure enough, it was as if people could read my mind. And I started getting asked more and more times, are you going to run? Are you going to try to become a judge here? You seem like you're sticking around. You've got some good ideas. And I was like, oh, okay. Maybe it's the Lord telling me you need to seriously think about this. And so I did. I started taking note of the way things were being done in the courtroom. And I decided I can do things differently and probably better. And so that is why I decided to go ahead and run. We have elections here for judges in Wyandotte County. Only us in Sedgwick County do that in the entire state. And so I said, that's the rules here, and I'm going to go ahead and do it. So that's how I found myself in this situation here today.
Awesome, awesome. That is remarkable. Well, of course, I know that you have been here for a minute, but still welcome to Wyandotte County. It is it's a unique county in that, as I said before, it is one of the most diverse counties in
Definitely.
the state of Kansas. And so with you not being a native of Wyandotte County, you still fit in and still have the perspective that many of the citizens of Wyandotte County have, and that they come there for the sense of community. Wyandotte County has always been very welcoming of people from other areas, and that is what makes it so diverse and so welcoming. And with the unique population that is there in Wyandotte County, what perspective do you bring to, or will you bring to the bench, and have you brought already to the office with the district attorney's office already, as far as that diverse population is concerned?
Oh, yes. When I first came to the DA's office, I was one of the first, well, the only Black female attorney that they had at the time, and in a while. My coworkers had told me it had been maybe about 4 or 5 years since they had a Black female prosecutor in the office. And so when I came in, they were just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, please don't leave. That is every day I heard that for probably the first 6 months. They just said, please don't leave. Like, we appreciate you being here. We want to hear from you. We want for you to be able to look at these cases and do your job and bring what you have to bring to the table. So please don't leave. So I would say from the beginning, I definitely bring that different background. And a lot of people have asked me about my heritage and my background, because as I appear, most people would say I appear as a Black woman, but I do have a Hispanic father. And so I bring both of those aspects to it. I would say I bring a young look at the law. The law has changed in many ways over the years. And so as we go through it, it'll change even more, but I'm still in my youthful days. I check the case law to make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and seeing how it could be changed in the future and what we're going to go through with that. Because in order for there to be reform, we have to be looking ahead and planning ahead. And that's kind of what I do when I'm already looking at my cases. Besides my being a minority and my age, I also think that I bring like a regular person's understanding to the table. I wasn't necessarily born with a silver spoon in my mouth, and everything that I had to do to get to this point, I had to fight to get here. It wasn't easy. And so I understand when people say I'm struggling with a job, or I can't pay my bills and things like that, because I've been there. When I graduated from law school, I was literally living off about 35 to 40 bucks a week, because I was studying for the bar and I didn't want to ask my parents for anything, because this was a choice I made. I chose to go to law school, and I chose what comes with that altogether. And so I was very prideful about it. I'm glad everything did work out, because I definitely took a gamble on myself. But yeah, I think I bring those kind of things to the table. So I do understand what normal, regular, everyday people go through. I'm doing this on my own. I do have support, but in terms of my everyday living, this is what I do. So I know what it's like when you're saying you can't pay your bills, or that you have some struggles with homelessness and things like that. I was temporarily homeless while I was working in the DA's office, because something happened at my apartment, and it was the craziest, most just like, this can't be real feeling on earth. Because here I was, a whole attorney, but I didn't have a place to live. Luckily, one of my coworkers let me crash at her house for about a week or so. But even then, I was living out of bags, out of plastic bags, because I didn't have access to my clothes or any of my items. And so I bring all of that to the table when I'm thinking about my cases and how I'm dealing with people, because that's essentially what we have to do. We have to take into account what has occurred, but also what can we do to make the situation better. So I would say I bring all of those things to the table in terms of perspectives when dealing with cases.
Absolutely. And it's very interesting that you say that, especially considering that the times that we live in right now, where we have food shortages, we are coming or actually still going through a global pandemic, and we have people who are just getting back in the workforce and who are overcoming some of the things that you are just transitioning out of, thank God. And then, of course, as you know, being in Kansas City, Kansas, as well as Kansas City, Missouri, right across the river, we have one of the largest houseless populations in the nation. And that is definitely something that I take very serious. And so I think it's important that people actually hear from someone that is in your profession and that looks like you, that how easy it is to be in that position and how you can.
It can literally happen overnight. I never would have imagined that happened to me.
Exactly.
And people, even in the system, we assume people have money. Like, for example, when we're talking about bonds, we're telling people if you make a bond, in order for us to appoint you an attorney, we have to send you back to jail to get you a court-appointed attorney. And I think about myself, if I'm in their position, I maybe have just enough to hire somebody. And so you're telling me I have to go back into the jail where I'm probably going to lose my job and have issues, then maintaining my stuff, my space, my residence, my bills and things of that nature. You know, you never think you're going to be in that situation, but you have to relate and think about that when you're dealing with everyday people and the issues we have out here in our county.
Absolutely. It is important that when you look out, and I believe so, because I, in my profession, I have to appear before judges a lot, you know, with psych evals and, you know, for whatever reason. And it's important for me that a judge sees a person and not a case. And when you bring that perspective, I do believe that that is something that will happen with you. But as far as not only your gender and your ethnic background, which of course is also very important, I also want to drive in something that is also very important, because there was another a question that I am going to answer a little bit later. But you also talk about how the cases that you work on, which are some very they're high profile cases just in what they are. They don't just give, if you know anything about the law, you just don't show up as an inexperienced or low experienced attorney and are handed the cases that you have. So you have to have just a little bit more than average experience. So you also bring that to the table. It is more than your heritage, and it is more than your gender that makes you qualified or necessary for this position. So I definitely want to give you the opportunity to talk more about your background and what qualifies you for the judgeship. So
definitely. So when I entered the DA's office, like I said, I started in the juvenile offender unit. And in that unit, I was able to really learn how to do my job and to see kind of the quick effects of my job. Because a lot of times on the adult level, it's more or less, here's your crime, here's your criminal history, and this is what we're going to do. On the juvenile offender level, I was able to look through school records, if they had some child in need of care issues going on. Like, there were other aspects I could consider in terms of a juvenile offender's case. And so they really helped me in formulating plans for what I was doing in that unit. It was very much hands-on. When I switched to the adult side, I immediately realized this is not the same. We are literally given what you are charged with and your criminal history. And so I began to transition into talking with people across the aisle, talking to the defense attorneys. And I became a prosecutor that people can talk to and reason with. I'm always saying that I'm available if you want to talk about your client's case, because I know that they are more than just what's on the piece of paper. There has to be more to it than that. And I also want to ensure that we're doing things so that we don't have to see them in 6 to 12 months. I don't really want to see them back here in the court system at all. And so in order to do that, I have to listen to voices that other people may not want to listen to, but I do it. And so in climbing that ladder to get to the cases that I have now, I definitely had to do that. And I put it on myself. I'm not going to lie. I had my regular caseload, but I was thirsty for the knowledge and the experience. Anyone in my office can tell you when I was making that climb, I worked tirelessly, trials around the clock, as many prelim hearings as I could do. I was covering things for people. And I just tried to get all of the experience I could so that when it was my time to handle these cases, not only could the people trust that I knew what I was doing, but I could trust myself. And I tell the interns and the up and coming attorneys in my office all the time, what you are doing is very important. And you have to realize your position, that more than likely a judge is going to follow the things that you ask for as a prosecutor. And so you have to be very careful with the work that you're doing. And that's how I've always been. I've always taken it as, from the smallest case to the most important case, everything is important. Everything in there, because it's affecting somebody's life, whether that's the defendants, the community itself, witnesses, victims. And at the end of it all, I hate to make it into anything like a joke, because I know people may say this, but I don't want to be anybody's Netflix story. I don't want them to look back and say, this prosecutor was doing this and that. And no, I try to do it right the first time so that we don't have any issues. And so, yes, I have fought and clawed for my experiences, and that is why they trust me to do what I do on a daily basis. And I'm not afraid to ask questions. I am not afraid to look into other options or other solutions. And that's what's really carried me this far, to be able to do what I do and to be entrusted to do what I do.
Okay. All right. I absolutely agree with you on that. It takes a wide range of experience, and you have to be able to rely on various sources and not just have tunnel vision when it comes to making the important life decisions that you make, because we all know that what happens in the courtroom does not end in the courtroom. Everything,
Never. It never does.
From your family to your job and everything that happens in and around you. So you have a very diverse background. You have the educational background as far as being a part of the Wyandotte County community. What sort of civic engagement, or how are you involved in Wyandotte County so the people will be able to see you and know you?
Oh, yes. So I am a member of the Mount Carmel Church of God in Christ. My church is very involved in the community, and it's one of the reasons I chose that church. I enjoyed my time there. I enjoyed what my pastor, what he's preaching about on Sunday morning, but also what we're doing in the community there. I'll also say I am a member of the Wyandotte County Bar Association. Just last year, I was the community service chair. And so I set up one of our biggest events that we have for the year. It's to get different food and everything for the homeless. And so I set up that event for our organization. I'm also a member of the Kiwanis Club West. We tend to cater to the needs of children and juveniles in our area. And so I help out with that organization. And then just recently, I graduated from the Leadership 2000 organization. And what I really enjoyed about that was taking my experience from the courtroom kind of the things I'm running on, and then relating those to people with different organizations in our community. I think one of the biggest issues we have a lot of times here is that we're all in our own little bubbles, and we don't get to learn about other people and what they're doing. And so I definitely took what little I was already doing and speaking with these people to figure out what more can I do, and especially for the things that I am running on, what can I do in the future to help out with this? Even if I'm not successful in my race, I want to know for myself, for my job, what is it that I can do better so that we can have better results in the community? And so, oh, and lastly, I cannot forget this, because certain people like yourself may definitely take offense to this. I am a proud member of the Kansas City, Kansas alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated, which is, as you well know, definitely a service organization. We've done multiple events, from going up to one of the elderly homes and singing Christmas carols or giving out ice cream and treats, to then also gathering clothing items for youth and for the homeless, gathering food, delivering things for the different holidays. And so I am well engaged in my community. But as I said at the forum we had on Tuesday, one person can't do it all. We all have to do the best that we can. And so even with this race, I'm still going to be involved in the things I'm involved in. And I look forward to being involved in even more, to make myself more aware of what we have here in Wyandotte County for the rest of us, and to make it for the better of us.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And yes, definitely mentioning that is a perfect segue into my next point, but definitely mentioning the wonderful and intelligent ladies of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, yes. Of course, I'm also a part of as well, who also played such an important role in the right to vote, yes. Who initially actually marched and stood side by side, even when we, as African Americans and African American women, did not have the right to vote and weren't going to have the right to vote at that time. We were still marching in hopes, knowing that we would in the future. So with that being said, how do you communicate to the community the importance of getting out and exercising that right? Because the election is coming up on August the 2nd locally, yes. And then we have the vote for governor and the bigger election coming up on November 2nd. But I want you to speak to that point for a second, the right to vote that we have.
Definitely. So when I go out and I'm door knocking and talking to people either at their homes or at the church or at different community events, what I always stress is that these votes that we make on a local level, this is what impacts us at the larger levels, at the state level, at the federal level. These people that you put in place to do a job that you're voting for, this is where they begin. And so if they need to be stopped, you have to stop it now on the local level. You have to seek out candidates that you truly want to follow and get behind, and make sure that you get your friends and family involved in that as well. Because the biggest thing is people can sneak through the door that should not be in certain places. And we fall short with that. We get real excited about the big races, but then we forget about the smaller local or the elections that happen in the off years that we're not voting for president per se. We tend to forget that there's still elections going on. There are still people that are coming through those doors. So my biggest thing that I tell people is, you want to see things change, it starts from the local level and works its way on up. So you have to continuously vote every single time that you possibly can, because every little vote that we make, it has an effect. So right now I'm running for judge, and you never know, one day I could end up being, like Justice Ketanji Jackson, but this is where that begins. So if I don't make it past here, then maybe I never make it there. And so I just always relate it back to that. This is where everything starts. If we start on the local level and continuously vote and vote and vote and vote some more, because what's happening in your community, even though you may not feel a direct impact, it's affecting the people around you. Look at your community. Do you want to see things be better? Do you want to change things? That's what voting does.
Right, absolutely. That's an excellent point. The local elections determine the things that happen to you locally, your
Yep.
property taxes, your driver's licenses, how much you pay in rent. If you're just recently, there was a law passed here in, I believe it was Shawnee, Kansas, just as far as how many people and who you're related to and who you can live in your home with you. So your
Yeah.
local elections matter. But with that being said, because we're about to run out of time, I want,
Oh, no.
how can the community reach you and how can they donate or help or contribute to your campaign?
Oh, yes. So I have a Facebook page as my main campaign page. It's Candace for Judge. So either you can type in my first and last name, which is Candace Alcarez, and go from there. It should bring it up, but definitely Candace for Judge. My email is candaceforwycojudge@gmail.com. And the phone number for the campaign is 913-335-0590. Again, 913-335-0590. And I saw a message down there in the chat.
Yes,
We always have to reiterate this for everybody. Judge Martinez and I are not running against each
right.
other.
And go ahead and state your district. I was getting ready to have you to do
Yes,
that. Judge Martinez is running for District 5. That is a totally
yes,
different district than what Ms. Alvarez is running. So Ms.
yes.
Alvarez, what district will you be running for?
I am running for District 12 against Wesley Griffin. Judge
Okay.
Martinez is running for District 5 against David Patricant. We are not running against each other in any way, shape, or form. He has his race and I have mine. So I just want to make sure we're clear about that because some people are confused.
12, two totally separate districts. We are
Yes.
not opponents.
No, we are not.
Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead. Back to
No,
how
you're fine.
reach
You're
you.
fine. And so, yes, any of those ways I mentioned, the Candace for Judge Facebook, Candace for YCoJudge@gmail.com. You can definitely reach out to us there. A lot of you have been calling that campaign number to get these signs, and we are getting them out to you as soon as we can. So I appreciate all the support, and I thank you guys for letting me be on here today. So that's all I got.
All right, thank you for joining us. And again, please exercise your right to vote on August the 2nd. And Ms. Alvarez, and also to Judge Martinez, I wish you well in your campaign and wish the best outcome on August the 2nd. And thank you guys for again tuning in to Up Close and Culture with Dr. Karasay. And you guys have a good evening. And to that viewer, I will answer your question in the Facebook, in the chat below. You guys have a good evening.
All right, good evening.